Now, for a lot of people, it's probably surprising that Black Myth Wukong is going to be getting a sequel that fast. But with Unreal Engine, I understand the development cycle is a lot faster and it's down to blueprints. So, what are blueprints in Unreal Engine? It may seem super complicated, but it's simple. They are functions. They are code programming functions, right? And a function is a contained block of code with a specific purpose. Oh my god, not specific, with a specific purpose. Now, for example, let's say you have a character in the world and you want to give control to the player to move it left and right. Okay, so along the x-axis, moving right means increasing the amount, moving left means decreasing the amount of its x position in the world. Okay, you can see more x position in the world, less. Now, there are a couple of different ways to do that, and we can start off by thinking about how you would achieve moving the character X position in the world using code. All right, so we start by getting the player's world position, right? And we simply want to, we call it incrementing or adding or changing the variable. So we'll get the player's world position. Actually, it's world position X, and then we want to add a value to it, something like 1. Okay, so I need to make a minor correction. We need to close that up. Also, I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So world position X, and we'll make it world position X plus 1. Essentially, we're moving it in world position X. Okay, so essentially we have that little bit of code that should move it forward in the X direction or to the right. But as you know, we're not just like moving by itself. We're trying to make it so that when the player presses the forward button, it moves forward. When it presses the back, it moves backward, right? So we need to find a way to listen in and actually make this a function and listen to when the player presses the button. So keep in mind, this isn't how the code would actually look. This is just a simple illustration so you have a look at what you need to do. So it'd say, okay, this is the code for move right, and we're like, oh, okay, cool, we've made that a function. That's usually how functions are written depending on your programming language. And once we have that dialed in, we now need to create some code which would listen in to basically want to listen for the player pressing a button. So let's say, okay, on button press dot forward, whatever the forward button press would decide, would want to fire off the function of move right, and that's essentially how you would set it up so that when someone presses that, it moves right. And you could essentially need to do this for multiple different functions. But in blueprints, it looks that simple. You have your input action for movement set up, okay? Because when you have the character created, it comes with a character movement component built in. You don't really have to do anything to set that up. Now with that movement component, we create an enhanced input action to detect movement that will cover both left and right, and we just add a movement input to it, and that's pretty much it. There's a bit of additional code I moved to flip the sprite left and right depending on the magnitude of velocity, but either way, it's all really easy and simple to do, and most of all, it's visual. So if I'm actually in game, I can, in engine rather, I can see and visually confirm that the function is working correctly and it is doing its job, and I can see it inside of the editor during testing. Now keep in mind, we have lots of different functions, but if you were to have all those different functions, we have a combo system, we have the jump management, we have to deal with all of that. If we're doing it in hard coding, it can become a pain and get out of hand. Then we have our melee enemy, and then our ranged enemy. We would have to deal with platforms, environment, switches. Doing all of that in dry hard coding is very, very difficult. I mean, look at this. It's not even real, right? It would probably be much larger than this in a real context versus setting up a couple of nodes. Yeah, blueprints are really quite quality for speeding up production. Now, granted, it's still viable to go out and program all of these different things line by line, but also not needing to focus on that so much allows developers to just focus more of their energy on setting up mechanics, fighting mechanics, environment art, environment quality, optimization, and basically the overall user experience that someone gets, which is actually it's a pretty cool addition that we have in our toolbox as developers. So speaking of development, next two videos, one's going to be about sun control in UE5, and then I'm going to cover a basic 3D character walk cycle.